Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. So despite the fact that I pretty much love everything about the aesthetic of Ghost Rider, I haven't actually read that much featuring the guy. Just freaking look at him. Guy in a leather jacket with a flaming skull for a head riding around on a motorcycle. Hell, I will freely admit to liking both Ghost Rider movies unironically. Of course, I also like the other Ghost Rider, but not really Ghost Rider, Nick Cage movie Drive Angry. But point is, I actually like the basics of the character. It's just for some odd reason, I've never actually read any of his series. That being said, that asshole Moarte did look at the origin comic for Ghost Rider a few years ago on his show, and man, oh man, is that one bad. If I ever get around to doing a Secret Origins Month episode on that, wow. In any event, Patreon-sponsored review time again, and it's for some Ghost Rider comics. But the thing is that by his nature as a supernatural character and an actual spirit, there have been a few different people who have held the name. There was, of course, the original Western character, which Moarte looks at in my newest DVD, hint hint wink wink. But screw that guy, we care about the Flaming Skull dudes, starting with Johnny Blaze. Johnny sold his soul to Mephisto to try to save his father figure's life from cancer, and naturally, it being a deal with the devil, it didn't turn out so well there, with Mephisto bonding him with a demon called Zarathos, turning him into the Ghost Rider. For a while, Johnny was actually freed from the demon, and we had the second Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch, who found a motorcycle with a mystical sigil on it, and merged with some kind of spirit of vengeance. Bear in mind, if I'm getting any of these details wrong, it's only because, as I said, I'm not actually that familiar with the character, so I'm looking up stuff here. I'm still stuck on motorcycle with mystical symbols on it. Like, did they do that because they thought it looked cool? Or was someone like, you know what my motorcycle is missing? Magic. For a brief time, a woman named Alejandra Jones was the Ghost Rider, gaining the power thanks to the actual biblical Adam of Adam and Eve, who was attempting to use the Ghost Rider powers to rid the world of sin. Comic books, everybody! And that brings us to today's reviews, the all-new Ghost Rider. The patron had originally wanted the first trade of the book, but in sincerity, he was hoping for me to do issues 1 through 8 instead of 1 to 5, since he wanted to see my thoughts on the all-new Ghost Rider meeting Johnny Blaze, who indeed has gotten his powers back a few times over the course of the last 20 to 30 years, and has served as a mentor and supporting character to other Ghost Riders. They instead decided to switch it around to the second trade, Legend, so time for backstory! Robbie Reyes is a high schooler living in East LA taking care of his disabled little brother. It's not a fun life for him, especially with so many gangs acting like assholes, stealing his brother's chair, threatening him, etc. He works as a mechanic and hopes to save enough money for him and his brother to ditch the town and go someplace better. To that end, one night he steals a fancy black car from work in order to use it in a street race for $50,000. I eagerly await the eventual crossover between Ghost Rider and the Fast and the Furious. However, the race ends with him cornered in an alley by a paramilitary cartel. Seems the car he stole had some weird contraband inside of it, and they shoot him up over his possession of the car and said contraband. However, it turns out the car was haunted by a ghost named Eli Morrow, who brings him back to life and grants him superpowers linked to the car, turning him into the new Ghost Rider. Eli has a voice in his head that encourages him to burn things, and I am not even joking with that. However, he resists some of Eli's more destructive urgings and instead manages to become a local hero at the end of the first arc by kicking the asses of some of the gangs and rescuing some kids. In many ways, it feels like Marvel's supernatural answer to Jaime Reyes' Blue Beetle. Hell, the two even have the same last name. Both teenagers, both Hispanic, both having a voice encouraging them to be more violent, both loving their families and doing what they do to help them, and both ultimately just wanting to make things better. It's of course not a one-to-one idea. Jaime's life in El Paso is definitely a bit luckier than Robbie's, but if Marvel and DC would ever get those sticks out of their asses and did crossovers again, I could see the two having awesome team-ups. In the meantime though, let's dig into all-new Ghost Rider Volume 2, Legends, and see how things go for Robbie in the wake of his successful beginnings.
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn.
Since I'm reading from a trade and no cover examination, though I will say I think using issue 7's cover for the trade cover was a mistake. It's a very stylized image, not particularly bad, but given the name of the trade, Legend, I think going with issue 6's with some graffiti of Ghost Rider works a lot better. On a related note, remember that riff of graffiti, fun or dumb? Yeah, painting Ghost Rider is never dumb. Also, because we're reading 7 issues, apologies if we rushed through things a bit. After the opening, where some kids play act their theories on who Ghost Rider is, including Robot Racer, Ghost Rider as a robot? That'd never happen. Yeah, we'll have another $20.99 month at some point. We see that with his newfound powers, Robbie has returned to street racing. And indeed, he's been successful with it. What I want to know is how you've got such insane handling, Chief. It's like you're driving through corners instead of around them. Well, it's easier when you activate no clipping. Eli Morrow is not happy with this. You're grossly misusing our power, Robbie. We could be cheating in national car races, not just street ones. We should be out punishing the night scum. Ghost Rider, tough on mildew. A news report on the battle that happened in the area is aired, with some interviews with bystanders that include a camera phone picture of Ghost Rider. At a bar where the report is on, a man watches this and decides to hop onto his motorcycle to head to the Hill Rock Heights neighborhood where it took place. My God! The Terminator is after Ghost Rider! Why haven't we had Ghost Rider versus the Terminator? After Robbie goes to school and gets told by his teacher how well he's been doing, we see the gang that he beat up for stealing his brother's wheelchair get together and break into an abandoned building. Robbie also meets with a social worker who praises him for his work with his brother, and it's clear that whatever he's doing, he should keep doing it. The spirits of the dead. The best way to improve your life. That night, after he puts his brother to bed, Eli once again tells Robbie he needs to hit the streets and do some vengeancing. But he just wants to count his street racing earnings. You've got a duty, Robbie. With great power comes great... Let me stop you right there, man. I mean, you're seriously gonna quote the guy who is perpetually broke to try to get me to beat people up? Robbie reinforces that his greatest responsibility is to his brother, and he really has no desire to be a vigilante. That night, a group of homeless people are looking over some stuff recovered from the battle at Hill Rock Heights, one thing in particular being a bag of pink pills. These pills were the contraband I mentioned in the intro. They were created by a mad scientist named Dr. Zabo, and they transform you into a superpowered monster. A dog eats some, and indeed becomes a monstrous creature, killing the homeless people. Unfortunately, this leads to the pill bag dropping down and a bunch of other animals finding them, including a cat, some rats, and a parrot for some reason. Polly wanna eat your face! And so, issue 6 ends with the reveal that the person the gang went to talk to is the previously mentioned Dr. Zabo, who wants them to do a task for him despite their injuries. However, he has a blue pill that will help them. All you'll need is this! Viagra! Issue 7 begins with a bunch of dude bros trying to change a tire so they can go and meet up with some girls. No doubt to discuss Leibniz's transcendental law of homogeneity. Or they're meeting up to bang, whichever. Those girls are so ready to get weird! It's ridiculous! This time she said she was gonna wear the clown suit, bro! I can't wait! However, their revelries are interrupted by an attack by the mutated animals, which all quickly slaughter them. Back with Robbie, he unfortunately has been having trouble saving for his goal of getting out of the area because of other expenses he has to pay for. Eli is still complaining about the lack of vengeance work, particularly because while Robbie has gotten his revenge, he's got bullies of his own to take care of. You tell me to trust you, Eli, and I appreciate you bringing me back to life, but I'm starting to doubt that my well-being is really your priority. Oh, please, whose life isn't improved by having your head set on fire? It's not helped by a situation later when he accidentally knocks over a guy's bike, and while he just wants to let it go, Eli starts encouraging him to beat down the guy, even taking partial control of him and threatening to murder them. Meanwhile, Robbie's teacher hears a news report about some robberies at some medical facilities. Each time, someone's graffitied the name Blue Crew on the walls in blue spray paint. And he recalls seeing that gang working for Zabo putting some blue spray paint in their bags at school. My God! Those teenagers are selling spray paint to the Blue Crew! Robbie wins another race, this time for $5,000, and the guy who lost to him demands a rematch the next night, double or nothing. However, said rematch is interrupted by the mutated animals attacking. Before Eli will transform Robbie into Ghost Rider to save his life, he wants him to reaffirm that the two are a team. And then he does so.
Ugh! Not today, Chuck E. Cheese!
Yeah, I don't think you should lead with that as your battle cry. Eli realizes that there must be more monsters created by Dr. Zabo, who of course also has a mutation thing going for himself, a Jekyll and Hyde persona whom he calls, Mr. Hyde, and tells Robbie they should have burnt the whole neighborhood down. As a result of the monsters, Robbie loses the race and has to hand over all that money to the guy. Eli keeps encouraging him to fight them, but Robbie gives in to his better angels. For about 5 seconds, then Eli goads him into attacking and getting the money back. Unfortunately, the result of that leaves the guy half dead on the side of the road. At least until Johnny Blaze as Ghost Rider arrives, ending issue 7. Neither Eli nor Robbie know who he is, which is understandable. Ghost Rider's not exactly Avengers-level fame, and with so many characters in the Marvel Universe, I can buy that not everyone has heard of him. So yeah, first encounter between the two Ghost Riders should be an awesome moment and fight, but unfortunately it's undermined by a big problem with this storyline: the artwork. I'm sorry, but I am not a fan of Damian Scott's art. It's really too cartoony for my tastes, and they tend to put him on books that, in theory, play to his strengths for stylized, dynamic images, but in the end, it tends to just look silly. You've got two dudes with flaming skull heads in what's supposed to be an exciting, intense fight, and it seems more like a Looney Tunes skit with muted colors. Except even with a zany cartoon, characters tend to have a consistent model until the wackiness starts. With Scott's artwork, no one has a consistent model. They're always rubbery, stretched, and exaggerated in the worst ways. If you like his art, fine, but it's not a good fit for every character, and Ghost Rider most especially is not helped by this. In any event, we get a little revelation about Eli.
You can't keep anything from me. I can see right through souls. Yours is a piece of work. Eli Morrow, is it? You murderous, sadistic, unrepentant Satanist! I mean, if you were a repentant Satanist, that'd be different.
Robbie manages to get away, though not before he gets the penance stare on him. Johnny is confused why there are two souls inside of this Ghost Rider. Not that it matters much, since the attack left Robbie feeling weak and sick. Later, at school, he collapses during a basketball game in gym, but when he wakes up, it's Eli who's in control, who gladly hits on the school nurse before going back home. The implication is at first that he's going to murder Robbie's little brother Gabe, but in reality he just digs out something under the floorboards, a lockbox containing some papers, one of which has a name and address on it for Yegor Ivanov. And on that note, Eli storms into a bar on West Hollywood looking for Yegor. ID, please.
Ain't got one, Nikolai. I'm a minor now. I'm not old enough to drink. I can finally get my life together.
He threatens some gangsters, telling them to inform Yegor that he's back, though of course the good Mr. Ivanov says Eli Morrow is dead and this is bullcrap. Issue 8 ends with a confluence of events. Gabe eating purple stuff, the Blue Crew causing trouble, Eli shooting up the bar, and Johnny Blaze driving along, probably listening to the greatest hits of the 80s, 90s, and today. Issue 9 picks up with that, with him narrating to himself that this is different from the other Ghost Riders he's met, that Eli Morrow is a mass-murdering criminal who escaped eternal damnation through satanic rituals, and as long as Eli keeps himself out of his Ghost Rider form, he can't track him. Fortunately, he finally gets a hold of him through his attack on the bar. Meanwhile, Dr. Zabo gives a speech to the Blue Crew, namely that he's actually calling them the Blue Hyde Brigade. However, this is why he's a scientist and not a marketing guy, since Blue Crew's rhyming makes it instantly more memorable, so that is what I shall call it. He says that most of the gangs of the Eastern Territory have joined up with him, but that the Russian Mafia has refused their invitation. So that'll bring that plot colliding into the Eli Morrow one. Speaking of, Eli finally manages to get to Yegor and goes Ghost Rider, but Johnny interrupts the festivities to once again become a cartoon with a huge upper body and tiny legs. Fortunately, this time the penance stare does its work properly, burning out Eli for a bit and letting Robbie resume control so he and Johnny can talk. Johnny explains about the other Ghost Riders, though he mentions that Robbie is different.
If I understand correctly, you did not make a pact with the devil?
What? Hell no! Only an idiot would do that! I mean, only a motorcycle stunt performer could be that dumb! By the way, Mr. Blaze, what's your profession? Johnny explains how the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance thing works and how he eventually managed to coexist with the spirit so that it didn't rob him of his humanity. And Robbie'll have to live with finding balance in his own life if he's going to continue this with Eli still inside of him. During all of this, the Blue Crew attacked the bar where the Mafia was working out of, though an explosion from the Ghost Rider fight knocked everyone back. However, Robbie's gang nemesis from school, named Guero, spots him and figures out who Robbie is. Speaking of, Robbie rushes home to check on Gabe, who is of course a bit scarred by Eli's behavior towards him. Yegor ended up kidnapped by the Blue Crew and brought to Dr. Zabo, who wants to force an alliance between them to deal with Ghost Rider. Yegor thinks it's pointless given how the dude is immune to bullets, but Zabo has something he can show off. The blue pills.
That's where you're wrong, my misinformed, soon-to-be Russian comrade.
The blue pills turn you Russian? No, of course, the pills turn you into a monster, as demonstrated by the army, whose clothes also grow from the pill.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
Issue 9 ends with Guero punching Robbie and saying he knows who he is and how he's gonna kill him and his brother. I would remind you, dude, that you already saw him take down a massive monster of a guy before, so even if you feel confident with your own underdog pills, pissing off the flaming skull guy is a bad idea. I have never understood the sheer idiocy that's exemplified in these kind of characters. You see a guy wearing leather, flames shooting out of him, and wielding magical chain weapons? Why is your first instinct, yeah, I can take him? I feel like there should be a Darwin Award strictly for people this stupid in fictional stories. In any event, Robbie's teacher tries to intervene, but he gets knocked down too, leading to Robbie losing control and letting Eli take over again. Guero and his pals beat a hasty exit back to Dr. Zabo, who's learning Eli Morrow's story from Yegor. Basically, Eli was one of his best hitmen, but despite his line of work, he considers himself a man of God, so upon discovering that Eli was a Satanist, he had him murdered. Guero tells the two about how Robbie is Ghost Rider and requests permission to go after him. But Zabo prefers to let him come to them. As such, they call up Eli and give him an address. What's more, Robbie's teacher arrives home with Gabe, wanting to know if he can help. Eli, being the twisted bastard that he is, decides to murder the teacher for no real reason, but Robbie asserts enough control to stop Eli and warns the teacher away. Gotta say, Robbie, I don't think you're gonna be able to do enough makeup homework for this. Eli arrives at the meeting spot, where the Blue Crew stands ready to attack upon Zabo's order. Yegor scolds Eli. Have you no shame? Involving someone else's soul in your twisted schemes? A Reyes, no less? I mean, Jaime's got enough trouble over in the New 52, but now this? Zabo holds back on ordering his forces to attack, giving Eli a chance to kill Yegor, but Robbie restrains him, wanting to know what the guy knows about his family. Guero, however, breaks ranks and attacks. Eli becomes Ghost Rider and knocks Guero over a bridge, Robbie finally asserting full control again to save him. And that's how you know Robbie's a good person. Guero has been nothing but a douchebag, even threatening to kill Gabe more than once, and he's still gonna try to save him. He manages to grab Guero with his chain, but when he yanks him back up, Guero's back gets cracked right on some of the bridge beams. Well, Robbie, your life is in shambles, but on the plus side, you've got a future career as a chiropractor. Guero is still alive, though his speech is garbled as Dr. Zabo unleashes his army on him. Fortunately, Johnny arrives to lend a hand, probably sensing the transformation, and the two Ghost Riders kick serious ass. Again, it's just a shame the artwork, while compositionally looking cool in this big splash panel, looks like absolute garbage because of the weird-ass cartoon proportions. I mean, it's not even just during the action scenes. The next day, Johnny says his farewell to Robbie, and he's built like a linebacker with pipe cleaner legs. In any event, Johnny says that if he ever needs any help, feel free to call. And for better or worse, he's a Ghost Rider now. Fortunately, for the final 2 issues, writer Felipe Smith himself took over the art duties, and it is a massive improvement. Hell, just the first page shows a flashback to Johnny giving him advice, and already the Ghost Rider here looks a million times more badass and interesting, and all he's doing is sitting on his bike. It's 10 months later, and Robbie's having a hard time keeping control over his anger, especially as he comes across a child trafficker's hideout. Eli pokes him about it and how he can't keep up this level of control over his rage, especially when compared to that of a serial killer like him.
My need for blood is endless, and it poisons every inch of your fiber. More and more, day by day. Your tank is nearly full, Robbie. Nearly overflowing with the need to kill.
Actually, I'm pretty sure I just need to pee. Later, Robbie sees Gabe's doctor to talk about his progress. He's doing a lot better mentally, but that's also worrying Robbie a bit, since he's throwing out all his old toys and comics and being rather antisocial with him, asking him to leave his dinner outside his room. The doctor thinks this is normal because Gabe is growing up and acting his own age. Restless, insecure, etc. Think about it. What were you doing when you were 13? I was taking care of Gabe. And I'm sure he'll be a great legal guardian to his younger brother, too. Eli goes back to mocking Robbie over Gabe, but finally does get a rise out of him by telling him to check out the lockbox he had found before. Inside is a picture of Robbie's family when he was a little kid. And Eli is there too. Robbie remembers there was a friend of the family named Elias, one his father would always defend, but his mother absolutely hated. As Robbie goes out for a date with a girl he likes, Eli decides to push some buttons further, admitting that he pushed his pregnant mother down some stairs, hoping it would kill her, but that incident may instead be responsible for Gabe's disabilities. And that rage gets him a-goin', and we learn later that Ghost Rider attacked some gang members, just barely managing to not kill them. However, it seems that Eli has a bigger plan afoot, as he's found a way to talk to Gabe in secret. He convinces Gabe that he was Ghost Rider on the day that he saved him, and that Gabe is destined to be a hero like him. As such, he manipulates the situation for him to go to a tall building and leap off of it, leading us into the final issue. Gabe had been left with the girlfriend to babysit, which is why Robbie wasn't there, called to his garage at the last minute to work. Some guys go up to him. "Hey, you that Robbie Reese?" It's Reyes. And they pull out guns and shoot him. Yegor Ivanov says hello! Aw, he sent them a gunogram! How thoughtful of him! Eli tells Robbie that as long as Yegor is alive, he'll keep sending people out to try to kill him. Of course, as Eli admits, if he does kill Yegor, they'll bond together forever and he'll become a satanic serial killer too, so that's a bit of a bummer. His girlfriend calls Robbie to let him know that Gabe is missing, and they search around for hours, only to head back home and find Gabe safe and sound. It seems Eli has more power in this situation than just talking to him, as Gabe soon goes out himself to go and attack Yegor in a demonic form. Fortunately, Robbie quickly figures out what's up and confronts him as Ghost Rider. Without Eli's power backing him up, the possessed Gabe manages to knock him down, but then Robbie reminds him of all the times he's been there for him. Gabe expels Eli and he goes back into Robbie. Unfortunately, Yegor sees the situation and puts a gun to Gabe's head, threatening Ghost Rider to stay away from him, leading Robbie to murder him. Eli, of course, happily proclaims that he'll consume him with anger, and from now on, he'll live with a constant urge to kill things. However, Robbie has a counteroffer. He'll gladly help him kill, but only the worst of the worst. Find him the darkest, most degenerate people on Earth. People like Eli. But he won't kill anyone else. And so, all new Ghost Rider ends with Eli agreeing to that deal. This comic is not bad at all, although the artwork for issues 6 to 10 is. It's a real shame that the book ends in a bit of tragedy, although it really feels like one of those cases of, I had to rush the ending because the book was cancelled. But yeah, all new Ghost Rider is overall pretty good, with solid characters and room to grow and expand that sadly was cut short. This wasn't the end for Robbie Reyes, as he did appear in a special Ghost Rider issue a year later, but yeah, this book was cancelled due to low sales, starting with 50,000 and ending on 11,900. It certainly deserved better than it got, despite the craptastic artwork for several issues. There's not much else to say about it, partially because it was such a short life for the book, and we don't know what sort of long-term plans there were. The good news is that as far as I know, Robbie is still doing his thing, and he clearly was popular enough among creative people to jump ship over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe by appearing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know some people were upset by the fact that he drove a car instead of a motorcycle, but honestly, I don't think it's that big a deal, especially since it helps give Robbie his own identity separate from the other writers. Here's hoping Robbie makes some more appearances and maybe gets a bit of a happier conclusion to his conflict with Eli. Next week, it's time for a Terminator twofer. We're going back to explore the second issues of 2 comics featuring the Terminator that I've reviewed before. And we start off with a return to Frank Miller's crossover where he takes on RoboCop. See you then. Hey everybody, in case you haven't heard, my title card artist and the voice of Poyo, Alex Tansley, has launched his own show on YouTube, Dr. Crafty, where he draws characters and makes humorous commentary during the process. Check it out now over at his channel linked below.